Ikuta was a village known for its endless stretches of vibrant farmlands, where the crops flourished under the nurturing touch of its people. Life was simple but peaceful, until the day the village became the battleground for fate and jealousy. Ajoa, a strong-willed woman, was the pride of Ikuta. Known for her unparalleled wisdom and the ability to manage her thriving farming business, she had 2 daughters, Aduk and Busy, with her late husband, Connor. When Connor passed away due to a sudden illness, Ajoa focused her energy on raising her daughters and maintaining her family's wealth. Years passed, and the 2 girls grew into beautiful women. Aduk, the eldest, had her father's charm and quick wit, while Busy, the younger, inherited her mother's strength and tenacity. They were loved by the villagers, but secretly, they were troubled by one thing: their mother's new lover. Ajoa had met Olumide, a mysterious and charming traveler, during a business trip to a neighboring town. Despite her daughter's skepticism, Ajoa fell in love with Olumide and invited him into their home. The girls had always suspected there was something off about him, but Ajoa was blinded by her affections. "I know Olumide seems different," she would say whenever her daughters expressed concern, "but he has brought happiness back into my life." Ajoa's love for Olumide seemed genuine, but what she did not realize was that the man she trusted was plotting to take everything from her. He saw her wealth and influence as tools to elevate himself, and he carefully manipulated her trust. The daughters were not fooled. They felt the presence of danger in Olumide's cold eyes. Ajoa's newfound happiness came crashing down one evening when she discovered Olumide had stolen a large sum of money from her business account. The same day, he disappeared, leaving behind nothing but confusion and heartbreak. 2 months later, Ajoa discovered she was pregnant with Olumide's child. Unlike Aduk and Busy, who were raised with a father who cared for them, this child's fate was tied to a man who had betrayed her mother. When the baby boy, Duro, was born, the entire village whispered about the child of the deceiver. While Ajoa embraced Duro with love, Aduk and Busy despised him. They resented their mother's decision to keep the child, seeing him as a constant reminder of Olumide's betrayal. The years passed, and the 2 sisters became increasingly cold toward Duro. Their anger hardened into something darker as they constantly plotted ways to distance themselves from him. Their mother's declining health added fuel to the fire, as they believed the family's wealth was slipping through their fingers while they were burdened with a boy they never accepted as their own. One fateful evening, while Ajoa lay in bed battling a sudden illness, she called for her daughters and explained her final wishes. "When I am gone, Aduk, Busy, and Duro must all live under the protection of my dear sister, Bidioko," Ajoa said weakly. "She will guide you all, and when you have proven yourselves responsible and united as siblings, my estate will be divided among you." Aduk and Busy's faces darkened with anger. How could they possibly share their mother's fortune with a boy they never considered their brother? But they had no choice but to comply with Ajoa's wishes after she passed away. Bidioko was an unrelenting woman with a sharp sense of justice. She was not one to tolerate disrespect or disobedience, and under her roof, the siblings had no choice but to act as a family. But the girls' hatred for Duro was unwavering, and they knew that as long as he lived, they could never be free to enjoy their inheritance fully. As the months passed, Bidioko noticed the growing tension between the siblings. While Duro was gentle and hardworking, Aduk and Busy were rebellious and often got into trouble. They would sneak out of the house, returning late into the night without explanation. When Bidioko confronted them, they would lash out, calling her old-fashioned and controlling. One day, after overhearing the 2 sisters whispering maliciously about Duro, Bidioko gathered them together. "You 2 may think you're clever, but let me remind you," Bidioko said sternly, "this household runs on discipline, and I will not tolerate any scheming or deceit. Duro is your brother, whether you like it or not, and you will treat him with respect." The sisters ceded in silence, but they knew better than to cross Bidioko directly. So, they decided to take matters into their own hands. One afternoon, when Bidioko was away visiting a friend in a neighboring town, Aduk and Busy devised a plan. They invited Duro to accompany them to the village market, promising him they would treat him to some sweets. Duro, who longed for his sister's approval, eagerly accepted the invitation. As they neared the market, the sisters made a detour, leading Duro to an abandoned shack on the outskirts of the village. There, they offered him some spice porridge they had prepared earlier. "What's this?" Duro asked, eyeing the bowl suspiciously. "Don't be silly, little brother," Busy said with a forced smile. "It's just a treat. You deserve it after all your hard work." Duro hesitated for a moment but eventually took a bite. Almost immediately, he felt a wave of dizziness wash over him. His vision blurred, and his body grew weak. What did you do?" Duro gasped as he collapsed to the ground. The sisters looked at each other, their plan falling into place. They had drugged him, and their next step was to make it look like Duro had been attacked by the spirits that were said to haunt the outskirts of Ikuta. They left him unconscious in the shack and ran back to the village, screaming for help. Duro has been cursed by the spirits," they cried. The villagers rushed to the scene, only to find Duro lying motionless on the ground. When Bidioko returned, she was devastated to find her nephew in such a state. She called for the village healer, who managed to revive Duro, but the damage had been done. Duro was weak, and the villagers began to distance themselves from him, believing he had been marked by the spirits. The sisters thought their plan had succeeded. With Duro disgraced, they were certain he would never inherit any part of their mother's wealth. But they underestimated the power of fate. Here is the continuation of the story. Duro remained weak for weeks, confined to his bed in Bidioko's home. The villagers whispered about his encounter with the spirits, some even crossing themselves when they passed him, convinced he was cursed. The once vibrant boy was now pale and quiet, his eyes hollow from the betrayal of the only family he had ever known. Bidioko, however, was not so easily swayed by the superstitions of the village. She had noticed the odd behavior of Aduk and Busy leading up to Duro's collapse, and her instincts told her something wasn't right. She knew that the villagers could believe in curses, but she believed in truth and justice. She watched her nieces closely, their every move under scrutiny. Aduk and Busy, believing their plan had worked, became bolder in their disdain for Duro. They stopped pretending to care about him, leaving him to fend for himself while they enjoyed the comforts of their inherited wealth. But Bidioko was patient. She knew that if they were guilty, they would eventually sleep. One evening, Bidioko approached Duro's bedside. His frail figure stirred as she entered the room, her presence soothing in the otherwise cold atmosphere. "Duro," she said softly, sitting on the edge of his bed, "I don't believe you were attacked by spirits. I've seen too much in this world to believe in such nonsense. Tell me, do you remember anything about that day?" Duro's eyes were filled with sadness and confusion. He wanted to trust his aunt, but the weight of betrayal from Aduk and Busy had crushed his spirit. "I don't remember much," he whispered. "Only that we were going to the market, and then I felt dizzy. The next thing I remember, I woke up here." Bidioko nodded, her suspicions confirmed. She squeezed Duro's hand reassuringly. "Rest, my boy. I will get to the bottom of this." Meanwhile, Aduk and Busy were basking in their supposed victory. They spent most of their days in the marketplace, flaunting their wealth and socializing with the other young women of Ikuta. They felt invincible, certain that Duro was out of the picture for good. But they failed to realize that the village's old ways were still alive in one crucial place, the home of the oracle. Deep in the forest, far from the bustling marketplace, lived a revered elder known as Kolefa. He was a man of few words, but his wisdom was sought after by people far and wide. It was said that he could see into the hearts of men and reveal the truth hidden in the shadows. Bidioko decided it was time to visit him. One morning, before the sun had fully risen, Bediako set off for the oracle's dwelling. The journey was long and arduous, with dense foliage and the sounds of the forest surrounding her. But Bediako's resolve was strong. She needed to know what had truly happened to Duro. When she finally arrived, Kolefa was sitting in front of his small hut, his back straight and his eyes closed as if he had been expecting her. Without opening his eyes, he spoke. "You seek the truth, Bediako?" She nodded, though she knew the oracle could not see her gesture. "Yes, I do. Something dark has befallen my nephew, and I believe my nieces are behind it. But I need to know for sure." Kolefa finally opened his eyes, his gaze piercing as he studied her face. "You have always been a woman of justice. The spirits of this land honor that." He stood and beckoned her to follow him inside the hut. The air inside was heavy with the scent of burning herbs, and the walls were lined with old carvings and symbols of the ancestors. Kolefa gestured for Bediako to sit in front of a small fire. "The spirits have seen what your nieces have done," Kolefa said, his voice low and measured. "They have poisoned the boy, hoping to rid themselves of him. They sought to make it seem as though he was cursed, knowing that fear would isolate him." Bediako's heart sank. Though she had suspected foul play, hearing it confirmed filled her with both sorrow and fury. "They will pay for what they have done," she vowed. Kolefa raised a hand, his expression grave. "Do not act out of anger, Bediako. The spirits have a greater plan for Duro. He is more than just a victim in this story." The oracle leaned forward, the flames casting strange shadows on his face. Duro's father was not an ordinary man. Olimite came from a lineage that was blessed with special gifts, gifts that lie dormant in Duro. The boy has power, but it has been suppressed by the evil that was done to him. Bediako stared at Kolefa in disbelief. "Power? What kind of power?" Kolefa's eyes glowed faintly as he spoke. "He has the ability to heal not only himself but others. He can bring balance where there is chaos. But he must be awakened, and that awakening can only happen when the truth is fully revealed." Bediako felt a surge of hope. If Duro could be healed, if he could rise from this, then all was not lost. But she also knew that the road ahead would be difficult. "What must I do?" she asked. Kolefa smiled, the first sign of warmth she had seen from him. "Return home. Confront the girls. The truth will set everything in motion." With newfound resolve, Bediako thanked the oracle and made her way back to Ikuta. The weight of what she had learned pressed heavily on her mind, but she knew there was no turning back now. When she arrived home, she found Aduk and Busy lounging in the courtyard, laughing as if they had not a care in the world. The sight filled Bediako with rage, but she kept her composure. She approached them calmly, her voice steady but firm. "We need to talk," she said, her eyes locked on them. Aduk and Busy exchanged glances, their laughter fading. They could sense something was wrong. "What is it, aunt?" Aduk asked, feigning innocence. Bediako did not mince words. "I know what you did to Duro. You drugged him and left him to die in that shack. You made it look like he was cursed by spirits." Both girls froze, their faces paling. "What are you talking about?" Busy stammered, her voice shaking. "We didn't do anything." Bediako took a step closer, her presence looming over them. "Don't lie to me. I've spoken to Kolefa. The spirits have revealed your treachery. You cannot hide from the truth." Aduk and Busy's bravado crumbled under Bediako's gaze. They looked at each other, fear flashing in their eyes. For the first time, they realized their aunt was not to be trifled with. We didn't mean for things to go this far," Aduk whispered, her voice trembling. "We just wanted him out of the way. We never thought he'd be hurt like this." Bediako's face hardened. "Your jealousy and greed have caused great harm. But this is not over." The spirits have plans for Duro, and he will rise stronger than ever. She turned and marched into the house, leaving the sisters in stunned silence. They knew they had been exposed, but they had no idea what would come next. That night, as the moon cast its silver light over the village, Duro's condition began to change. Bediako stayed by his side, whispering words of encouragement, willing his dormant powers to awaken. Slowly, color returned to his cheeks, and the weakness that had gripped him for so long began to fade. By morning, Duro sat up in bed, his strength returning in ways he had never felt before. His mind was clearer, his senses sharper. He looked at his aunt, who smiled at him with a mixture of pride and relief. "The spirits have awakened your gift, Duro," she said softly. "You are destined for great things." "Thank you." Here's the final session, bringing the story to its conclusion. The Forgotten Son of Ikuta, Part 3. As Duro's strength returned, so did his memories. The fog that had clouded his mind since that fateful day began to lift, and he remembered everything. Aduk and Busy had betrayed him, drugging him and leaving him for dead in the old shack. The pain of their treachery cut deep, but Duro's newfound power filled him with a sense of purpose. He looked to his aunt Bediako, who stood beside him with a resolute expression. "Aunt," he said quietly, "I know what they did. Aduk and Busy tried to destroy me." Bediako nodded, her eyes hard. "I know, my child. But their plans have failed. The spirits have blessed you with gifts beyond their understanding. You are stronger than they could ever imagine." Duro clenched his fist, a surge of energy coursing through him. He felt an unfamiliar warmth in his chest, as though the very air around him was vibrating with life. For the first time, he truly understood what the oracle had meant. His power was not just physical but spiritual. He could feel the pulse of the earth, the whisper of the ancestors guiding him. "Aunt, what should we do?" Duro asked. Despite his anger, there was no hatred in his heart. He had always been kind, and now, even with the betrayal, he sought justice, not revenge. Bediako sat beside him, taking his hand. "Justice will be served, Duro. But you must be careful. Your sisters are still your family, and the spirits watch over them too. The punishment must be theirs to bear, but you will decide how to act." Duro pondered her words, his mind torn between anger and compassion. Meanwhile, Aduk and Busy grew increasingly anxious. They had noticed the change in Duro, his newfound strength, the way he carried himself as if he had been reborn. The village buzzed with rumors of Duro's recovery, and the sisters knew that their time was running out. One evening, Aduk approached Busy, her voice hushed and panicked. "We can't stay here any longer, Busy. Duro's different now. He knows what we did. We need to leave before it's too late." Busy, usually the more calculating of the two, was equally unnerved. "But where will we go? We have no one else, and the villagers are watching us." Aduk's eyes darted around the room, as though expecting Duro to appear at any moment. "I don't care. Anywhere is better than staying here, waiting for him to confront us. We can take the rest of the money from Mother's estate and flee." The sisters quickly packed what little they could carry, intending to disappear into the night. But just as they were about to slip out the door, they found Bediako waiting for them in the courtyard, her arms crossed and her expression stern. "Where do you think you're going?" she asked, her voice as steady as a mountain. Aduk and Busy froze, their hearts pounding in their chests. Aduk tried to muster some defiance. "We are leaving. We don't belong here anymore. Duro is not the same. This place isn't safe for us." Bediako stepped forward, her eyes narrowing. "The only danger here is the one you created. You think you can escape the consequences of your actions by running away. The spirits will find you wherever you go." Busy's voice trembled as she spoke. "Please, Aunt. We didn't mean for any of this to happen." We were afraid. Afraid of losing everything. Bidioko shook her head, her disappointment evident. Fear doesn't excuse cruelty. You tried to destroy your brother, the one person who never wished you harm. And now, you think you can run from the truth. Suddenly, the door to the house creaked open, and Duro stepped out into the moonlight. His presence seemed to fill the courtyard, his once timid nature replaced with quiet strength. Aduk and Busy recoiled at the sight of him, guilt and shame etched on their faces. Don't go, Duro said, his voice soft but firm. I know what you did, and I know why you did it. But running away won't change anything. The sisters stared at him, their fear turning to confusion. They had expected anger, fury, maybe even revenge. But Duro's gaze was calm, almost sorrowful. I'm not going to punish you, Duro continued. I'm not here to seek revenge. I've been given a gift, one that allows me to see beyond hatred and jealousy. What you did hurt me, yes. But I can heal, physically and spiritually. The question is, can you? Aduk broke down into tears, falling to her knees. We were wrong, Duro. We were so wrong. We were blinded by our greed, by our fear. We never accepted you, and for that, we've destroyed everything. Please, forgive us. Busy remained silent, tears streaming down her face, but her head hung in shame. Duro knelt beside his sisters, placing a hand on each of their shoulders. The spirits have shown me that forgiveness is more powerful than any curse or punishment. I forgive you both, but forgiveness alone won't heal what's been broken. You need to make amends, not just to me, but to the village, to yourselves. Bidioko watched in silence, her heart swelling with pride at the man Duro had become. She had always known he was special, but now she saw the true depth of his character. Aduk and Busy sobbed quietly, their guilt washing over them like a tidal wave. They knew that their brother was right, that their redemption lay not in fleeing but in facing the consequences of their actions. We'll make things right, Duro, Busy whispered. We'll do whatever it takes. In the days that followed, the sisters worked tirelessly to atone for their misdeeds. They returned the stolen money, helped Duro with the farm, and sought forgiveness from the villagers for their deceit. Slowly, the village of Ikuta began to heal, and so did the bond between the siblings. Duro's powers grew stronger with each passing day, and soon, he became known as the village healer. People came from near and far to seek his guidance and blessings, for it was said that Duro could mend not only the body but the soul. His wisdom surpassed that of the elders, and even Khalifa, the oracle, came to him for counsel. Years later, as Duro stood on the hill overlooking the fields of Ikuta, his heart filled with peace. Aduk and Busy had found their own paths, both having transformed into women of kindness and humility. The village, once fractured by secrets and betrayal, was now united in harmony. Duro smiled, knowing that his journey had not been easy, but it had been worth it. He had been tested by pain, but through it, he had discovered his true strength. The spirits had awakened his gifts, but more importantly, they had shown him the power of forgiveness and the importance of family. As the sun set over the horizon, casting a golden glow over the land, Duro whispered a quiet prayer of thanks to the ancestors, grateful for the lessons they had imparted. Ikuta was his home, and he knew that as long as he lived, he would continue to protect it, not with anger or vengeance, but with love and wisdom. And so, the forgotten son of Ikuta became the village's greatest blessing, a symbol of hope, healing, and the enduring power of the human spirit. I hope you enjoyed the story. If so, please like the video, comment what you learned from the tale, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more enchanting tales just like this one.